Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Crop Progress Update. If you're looking at this field behind us, you're probably wondering exactly where we're at because this is very atypical for this time of year. We are standing here in northwest Ohio, just south of our Toledo, Maumee, Perrysburg area, and looking at a cover crop field here behind us. If you are one that looked at the FSA data and the prevent planted acres that came out in the report on Monday, you will identify this area, northwest Ohio, southern Michigan, being one that definitely had significant prevent plant in it, had an extremely wet spring, and quite a few acres that did not get planted to corn or soybeans here this spring. We talked to the grower here that farms this field, and he planted a radish and oat mixture here as a cover crop on this farm.
I'm glad that he used the oats and radishes. I really like that mix, especially for right now at this stage of the game. He's going to go to corn next year. So both the radishes and oats are good nitrogen catch crop. And the nice thing about those two crops, they'll frost kill whenever it gets a really cold end of December, first part of January. And we don't have to worry about killing them off next spring. And also both crops will help with compaction. So yeah, I really like this mix.
Good. It looks like we're going to have a really good stand here in this field too. We got a nice inch of rain here this week, which is definitely going to help this cover crop come up. The precip's been nice, so it feels like we've seen that across Indiana, Illinois as well. Just much needed drink of water for some of those areas here as we get past pollination and start looking towards making the yield and the kernels on these crops.
One nice thing, if we can say a nice thing about prevent plant, is that maybe it'll introduce a little bit more wheat into our rotation. We can easily plant a lot of these prevent plant fields here in a month, middle part of September, to wheat, and get that kind of back in the rotation, get some more acres in.
Absolutely.
We're over here at a cornfield just south of Perrysburg, Toledo area, and we're kind of checking to see how the progress of this corn is going. It's right at pollination. This is the great time to go out there and apply your fungicide. Fungus is going to be really bad this year, and as you're putting on your fungicide, you can be putting on your overpass CF with it, 1 to 2 gallon, and that'll just increase grain fill. I'm going to do a pregnancy test on this corn to see if it did get pollinated well. So first off, what we want to do is we want to cut the base of the corn off, and then we want to shuck the shucks off. You'll want to hold it at the base of the ear, and you want to shake it gently. And what we're looking for is we're looking for silks that are still attached. So this ear hasn't been finished pollinating, obviously. We still have a lot of silks attached to the ear. And once the pollen hits the silk, it goes down and pollinates the alveolate, and the silk detaches from the alveolate. So we can tell which alveolates have been fertilized or not. So I did a quick check earlier on, and we got about 12 rows around, 36 long, and it's about 34,000 population out here. And so if everything goes well, and everything pollinates well, we could be looking at somewhere in between 150, 175 bushel crop out here.
Okay.
We got a long ways to go.
Yes.
We still need a lot more rain to fill out this. We still need this to pollinate.
Yep.
But we're on track for a good, decent crop.
Yeah, and with that being said, it feels like here in Northwest Ohio, this is something that normally happens here first half July, I would say, and we're here first half, middle of August. I mean, we're definitely a month behind, probably closer 5 to 6 weeks behind what we would consider normal in this area.
And that correlates well with the planting.
Yep.
We were about a month to 6 weeks behind on planting, so.
Absolutely. And the other piece of this too is there's not a lot of cornfields in this area just because planting season was so wet and so late here in Northwest Ohio and Southern Michigan that we're just a notch behind everywhere with not near as much corn planted in this area as what we would consider normal. Taking that a step back here and looking and dissecting the USDA numbers that we got there on Monday, I mean, just a little bit opposite here in Northwest Ohio for what we saw from that report. From a national perspective, they did increase the national corn yield from a 166 to a 169.5 national yield here for this crop year, as well as increase the ending stocks here for this year to a 2.18. So from a national perspective, it feels like there's corn out there. One could say that it's going to be a little bit challenged here in Northwest Ohio here this year.
I told Seth here that I take a look and stage these beans. So bean staging can be a little confusing, but if we just remember to start with the trifoliate that's completely unfurled, and that would be the trifoliate that's not, the edges aren't touching each other on the leaf. So it'd be this one right here. So we want to count down 4 nodes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we look at the size of the pod, and if the pod is over 1/4 inch and less than 3/4 of an inch, we're at R3, and that's where we're at right now. This is really important. R3 is really important. This is when it really starts taking on a lot of nutrients and building those pods that are forming right now. We want to kind of baby this plant. So this is when the best time to apply a fungicide, or some of our foliar fertilizers, our Overpass SF. And this is the stage that it shows the best promise.
Okay. As we look at this info and we look at the numbers that the USDA gave us here in the report just on Monday, really somewhat of a bullish report in soybeans, one could say. I mean, they kept the yield of a 48.5, the same as what it was in the July numbers. They decreased the planted acres just a bit here to roughly 4 million acres here in soybeans, which is somewhat surprising because we did see some more beans planted in this area just to not getting corn planted with a severely wet spring here. And we'll debate yield for a long time, and it feels like these soybeans are just a notch behind here from a maturity perspective as compared to normal. We'll probably have some shorter soybeans here in this area than what we would consider to be normal as well, but I still think there's potential here for a nice soybean crop that could be close to that national yield number of a 46, 48 bushels to the acre. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, soybeans are a kind of a weird crop. They put their yield on in typically August after the R3. So if we get a lot of rain here coming on the next 4 weeks,
sure,
we're gonna have a really good crop. Like I said, potential's here. It's really flowering nice, and we got some height to it. Then these will get bigger as the rains continue. So yeah, I think potential's here.
That being said, thank you for tuning in and watching this episode of the Crop Progress Update. We feel like this was a very representative sample of what we've got in front of us here from a growing season perspective here in Northwest Ohio. I would challenge you all to get in touch and have those conversations with your ag advisor on the agronomy side and your grain buyer on the grain side, and in any way we can help you out to get through this growing season and push forward. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in and watching with us, and we'll see you down the road.